so over the last several years, we've been able to really collaborate quite well with the teachers and kind of figure out like where each student is, what are some different strategies that could be used in the classroom. And so today we're hoping to be able to kind of continue that conversation with you all and help you all understand what is executive functioning, what does it mean, how does it impact us? And so that's really our focus. And executive functioning is huge. It's huge. We could probably talk for 3 or 4 days straight on it and still not cover everything. So this is going to be very much in a nutshell, if you will, but hopefully you'll walk out of here with some new information that you didn't know or some different perspective, just to help you kind of understand your children a little bit better or in a little different way.
But also, I just wanted to add, like, executive function, it's not like, oh, we're just working on executive functions. Like, it's in everything that we do, and that we do, and even the kids do. And Nicole's gonna go through, like, every area.
Yeah. So we have a video here. And it's just a quick little video, but we just thought that it was probably something a lot of you could relate to, a situation that you or your children could relate to. So we'll just watch a minute or so of it before we get into the heavy duty.
Because I'm in that.
Maybe.
You know, because now I'm in that presentation mode. Do I have to click out of that? Click out. Technical difficulties. Oh.
Did you ever get into a disagreement with a classmate?
Hold on.
Let's see what happens when Jake just.
I think we have to clear out
Well, we might just skip over this. Well, this is why we need Mr. Ted.
Yeah.
Because Mr. Ted knows how to
You
operate
like put us
all of
on
this.
presentation mode.
Do you want to go
Yeah.
directly to the website?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It won't.
Well, what I could do is, I mean, we could just show.
Yeah, we could just watch
Why don't you watch it on?
Yeah.
Watch it on.
There's a
Sure.
few of us.
Okay.
His classmates while playing a game in the gym.
Jake, you're out. No, I'm not. Jake, you're out. No, I'm not. You are out. No, I'm not.
Jake, you need to keep your hands to yourself. On the bench, please, for pushing.
Now, let's see what everyone is thinking.
I can't believe it. I don't want to be out. He's out. Why doesn't he just admit it? It's no fun playing a game with Jake, but he's always arguing.
Jake's arguing made everyone feel annoyed, and his behavior got him kicked out of the game. Your classmates may have different opinions, but if the majority of people call you out, you're gonna have to accept that decision, even if you thought you were safe. Let's take a look at what Jake can do differently to get a better outcome.
Jake, you're out. I don't think I was out, Kyle. No, you really were out. Fine, I'm out. But this is fun anyways.
The less time you spend arguing, the more time you have to play the game. To keep the game moving, agree to do a play over if it's too close to call. If you keep arguing your point instead of resolving a disagreement, nobody's gonna have fun. Opinions are not facts, so sometimes you're gonna have to agree to disagree. When there's a group disagreement, let the majority rule. Less arguing makes the game more fun for everyone. Have a do-over rule for plays that are too close to call. Sometimes you have to agree to disagree.
So that was
Friends
a
like
pretty
classmates
common
resolve
situation
disagreements.
amongst our kids, I think. you know, that disagreement and kind of that rigidity in thought and processes, and just being able to be flexible.
Guess what day it is? What day is it, Mike?
There we go.
Okay.
And so, what we want to show you today is that, you know, executive functioning does really impact every area and every routine of our day. Whether it's getting ready in the morning, socializing with friends, doing well academically. And so the three big regions that we want to start with is just the regulation areas. So when we think about regulation, a lot of times you're thinking about it in the mindset of sensory, which it is, but there's also cognitive and behavioral regulation in addition to the emotional regulation. So when we're thinking about behavioral regulation, this is the ability for an individual to monitor their own behaviors and what kinds of impacts that's truly having on others around them. Are they having a positive impact, or are they negatively impacting those around them? And it could be a peer, it could be a teacher, it could be a parent. And that's what we just saw in that video there, where the behavior was impacting the fun of the rest of the group. And then there's the emotional regulation. And so this is where, even though you're upset, you can control yourself. You say, okay, I'm upset, but I'm gonna take a few deep breaths, I'm gonna walk away. Maybe I kind of mumble something under my breath, but I don't physically act out, or I don't yell out, and kind of having that control over our emotional feelings. Then we have the cognitive regulation, and this is often related to our emotional regulation. So if we're emotionally dysregulated and we're feeling really emotional, then we may act more impulsively. We may not make great decisions. And so when we do have good cognitive regulation, we're able to do more problem solving. We're able to come up with different plans to approach, or, you know, different ways to approach a situation. We don't get stuck in just one way of thinking. So here, I thought this was a nice kind of visual. Sometimes it's difficult, I think, to understand what is happening in all the different areas of the brain, but for today's purposes, we're really looking at this front pink area. That's really where all of the executive functioning occurs, is in the frontal cortex. And so when we're thinking about executive functions, we want to think about, this is the area of the brain that's being affected. When we're thinking more about like the sensory components, you're going to be thinking more in the yellow or this center brighter pink area. That's where the sensory cortex and the motor cortexes stem from. So we're not going to have time to go through all of the different components that go into executive functioning today, but I did want to highlight the ones that I felt were probably the most important to the kiddos here and the population of children that we see here. And so the first one is the self-monitoring. So this is what I was saying just a moment ago, is knowing what is your impact on somebody else. If you do something, does it impede their performance or their participation? And then being able to adjust that within yourself and make good choices so that you can stay on task and make a good positive contribution to what's going on within a group. Then it also leads into that emotional control. So like I said a moment ago, if you don't have good emotional control, you may make an impulsive remark, which may hurt somebody's feelings, or you may throw something, which then leads to disruption within the classroom or the household. So emotional control is a big one. Inhibition, so this is the ability to say, I'm upset and I want to react, I want to respond, but I know this is not the time and the place to do that. So even though I'm really mad and I want to throw something at you, I know that's not a good call. I know that I shouldn't do that. Or even though I'm really angry with you, I'm still not going to say those mean words. Flexibility. Flexibility is one that I find a lot of the children really struggle with because it requires them to not only come up with a different way of thinking, but also requires compromise and negotiation. And a lot of times what we see with children who are struggling with flexibility, it's they have a way they want to do it and there's really no negotiating. And you're trying to give them, well, what if we do it this way? What if we do it that way? And it's just no, 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 no. So trying to help them understand that flexibility is not scary, because I think that's a big perception. It's like, if I change my plan, I'm out of control. This is uncomfortable for me, but it's okay. So flexibility, and then that leads into shift. Shift is the ability to change that mind frame. So maybe I want to go have a snack, but it's time to go to school. Well, if you don't have time to have a snack right now, can I shift my attention away from the demand that I'm requesting, that snack or that brownie, whatever it might be, and actually shift over and focus now on school? The other place that shift comes into play is whenever you're giving them instructions or teachers are giving them instructions. So if a teacher is up front giving them directions, but they're supposed to be working on a worksheet in front of them, they have to be able to shift from the demand of what the teacher's saying to the demand of filling out the worksheet. This can be very challenging. This is the child that you see that's just looking at the teacher and they're not working on the worksheet, or they're just working on the worksheet and the teacher, or even you as a parent when you're doing homework, you're like, are you listening? Are you listening to me? Stop, listen. So shift is a big part of our day, and we do that all day, particularly when you have children, because you're shifting between whatever they're asking you for, doing the dishes, making dinner, husband's calling on the phone, wife's calling on the phone, whatever it might be. So shift is a big piece. Working memory is the ability to take in information and hold it in the mind and then use it later on. So if you're giving your child instructions and you're like, okay, I need you to go and brush your teeth, wash your face, and then come back down and get your shoes on, they have to be able to hold that in their mind. They don't have to hold it forever, but they have to hold it for a short period of time. So these are the children that are struggling with, you say, okay, brush your teeth, wash your face, and come get your shoes on. You find them just kind of off doing something else. And you're like, didn't I tell you to go brush your teeth? And they're like, oh, I forgot, Or they get to brushing their teeth and then they're just playing in the bathroom. And you're like, did you wash your face? And they're like, no. It's like, come on, we gotta go. We have 10 minutes to get out the door, let's go. So working memory is something else that we see with a lot of the kids here at John Crosland, some difficulties. Initiation is the ability to actually start something. So some of our kids are really great at planning, which is the next slide, or the next definition. They're really great at planning. They will plan and plan and plan and plan, and they make these amazing plans, but they can't ever get started. It's like they're stuck in that planning mode. And so the initiation piece can be really challenging if you have a task that has multiple steps, because if you can't get started, you're not going to make progress. And sometimes we'll see this where they're organizing things, and we see it a lot when we're working with kids, like if we're asking them to, let's say, build an obstacle course. They put 10, 12 different things in this obstacle course, and then we're gonna, and we're like, okay, let's slow down, let's try it, and then see if we need to add something or change something, but they're just planning. And then the planning and prioritizing, on the reverse side of that, some of our kids have difficulties planning. And so if they have a project and they have to write, maybe they have to research and write and draw a picture, it's like they don't know what order to start. So they're like, okay, I have to do, we could use Martin Luther King Jr. since we just had that holiday. I have to do a project on Martin Luther King Jr., but I don't even know what part to do first. Do I start drawing the picture before I even know anything? Do I start writing and I haven't done the research? So planning and prioritizing can be a challenge. Organization, so once you have all of the things, all the materials, all the knowledge that you need, is putting it in a very organized or systematic manner so that you can really use that effectively. And then task monitoring also goes along with the organization a lot of times, because if you can't monitor yourself to keep yourself on track, then you get distracted and you get stuck sometimes in kind of those less necessary tasks, or you may, get stuck doing one thing, and because you can't figure out how to solve that problem, you're just there and you never move on, so you get rigid. Task completion. Sometimes when we are working on a task, we just keep working on it,